Hello, all, and good evening, and welcome to the Tea House. This is your humble, hospitable host, hopefully, is what you think, Bilal. Today I'm going to be discussing what I believe, and this is my personal opinions, of course, which mean very little, what I believe it means to be Muslim, and what is Islam to me. Which that's a question you can ask many Muslims. What is Islam to you? And of course, most people will have different answers. To me, I believe the ethos of Islam is encompassed in the idea La ilaha illallah, which means there is no God but God, which you take to many conclusions, but to me, it encompasses the idea of qadar, which is predestination, although I don't, well, vaguely predestination. I don't believe it goes to the same extent Calvin would have it, but the idea is that everything that happens comes from God. So monotheism, La ilaha illallah, does not just mean there's one God and I worship God. That's not exactly just, that's a surface meaning, of course. That's not necessarily what it means. What it means is that you understand that everything comes from God, the breath of the compassionate, that understanding that not every breath is guaranteed, but everything that comes to you comes from your Lord. That's how you are a mu'min, which is a friend of God. The Naqshbandi would have it to say that there is no difference between the worst day in your life and the best day in your life. There should be none. It's that everything comes from God, and the one who is true. And that has helped me get through some pretty hard times in my life. The idea that if everything is coming from God, then there must be a reason for it. Of course, John Keats said, "Life is divine chaos." That's the way it's supposed to be, and that's another thing I often think about. And with Malcolm X saying, we are some of the things that have happened to us, which he vaguely said in the his autobiography, is told by Alex Haley. But besides qadar, there would also be Ibn Sina's idea of the prerequisite of existence, which would mean that I exist and you exist because you had parents and I have parents, and this YouTube channel exists because I inputted the information. This video exists because I inputted the information. That's kind of the prerequisite of existence, and there would have to be a being that existed or some prerequisite to all existence, which of course the scholastics would later pick up on when they would say he's Ibn Sina. No, it's Ibn Sina. But yes, that would mean that God is the prerequisite to existence, which of course is something that I believe in and something I believe to make sense. That did eventually help me come to Islam. Now, you can also speak of Ibn Arabi's idea that God is existence, or isn't existence, but is the wujud, which is the oneness, that is the absolute existence, that nothing exists without God. And to an extent, everything within, although nobody really understands Ibn Arabi, especially not me. And if somebody does say they understand Ibn Arabi, the joke, of course, is that they are either mistaken or lying. But now, when we discuss this, we can take this further in what it means, La ilaha illallah. There is no God but God. When you talk about the oneness or the wujud, it also should go to how you treat other people, and that's honoring the rights that others have over you, and they are monitoring the rights that you have over them. Not even just people, but animals, of course, as well. Adam, upon whom be peace, being the perfect creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the one who was told, the angels were told to prostrate before Allah, of course, giving Adam, our father, upon whom be peace, the knowledge of all things. Now, when we discuss this, what I mean by this is the idea that humanity is Khalifa or successor on Earth, that we have a responsibility to take care of the planet, which encompasses La ilaha illallah, there is no God but God. So our devotion to God should go into us taking care of the planet, which is why environmentalism should be something that is on every Muslim's mind. How we treat the planet is a reflection of how we would treat the mosque. The world is our masjid, and if you're not respecting the environment, then can you truly say you're respecting God? And that's another thing that I believe gets in the ethos of Islam, is that we do not separate, we try not to separate and become just of materialism or of the spirit, but to find that middle path, the straight path between asceticism and materialism. I believe this balance between the spiritual and the materialistic can best be described in materialism, of course, being the physical world, can best be described in a quote from the book Islam Between East and West by Elaji Ali Begadovic, the former president of Bosnia-Herzegovina. Islam knows no specifically religious literature in the European sense of the word, just as it knows no pure secular literature. Every Islamic thinker is a theologian, just as every true Islamic movement is also a political movement. And what we mean by that, or what I believe is meant by that, and what I'm trying to convey, is that whereas I'm not knocking these beliefs, whereas Christianity, for example, would be focused on the spirit of man, Islam is also focused on the physical reality of man. Not just saying that, of course, God is all just and we'll all have justice in the next life, but that justice should be done on the earth, which is part of our ethos. We're not a religion of standing on our laurels. When something is unjust, we should speak about it. And the hadith by the Prophet Muhammad, of whom be peace, says, if you cannot change something with your hands, then do so with your tongue. And if you cannot do it with your tongue, then do so with your speech. And if you cannot do it with your speech and heart, I'm butchering the quote, but essentially that's the idea that Islam is about just as much of the physical world as the spiritual. In fact, we can be much in the way of the green man, for example, the understanding that we are parts of this planet, part of the world. We're not separate from it, and that's what Islam means to me. Islam to me is the honoring of the prerequisite of existence, the honoring of the breath of the compassionate, and the honoring of the world and your fellow man, to respect someone not just because it's the right thing to do, but because they are human. And I believe most world religions teach that, but Islam makes it very apparent that is part of our ethos, which is the fitra, the inclination we have towards God. So the idea in closing is that you are not a good person because you believe, but if you are a good person, you will believe. And I believe that's the entire point of religion, is not to spout about how I'm such a good and righteous person and go to worship and then live your life in a horrible way where you trample on the rights of others and treat others as less than. No, the true religion is good character. And if you are not having good character, then you are not having faith. And that's what Islam means to me. And that's just my little share moment. Anyways, if you like the video, please subscribe. If not, then that's okay. And it's been a pleasure speaking to you all. It's been Bilal's Tea House, and thanks for coming to my tea house today. Oh, and before I forget, the photo in the beginning of the video is the humble Sonoran toad, who happens to be my favorite local animal in my area. And also, the painting is of Ibn Battuta, who is one of the most interesting fellows of the classical world, ancient world. His story is definitely worth looking into if you have time. Anyways, thank you, and have a good night. Bye.